covering the hidden gem regarding Prince Stolas. Now, this is the depiction from the Goetia Tarot of Darkness. This is how he's depicted. He's also in the Daemon Tarot, which does incorporate the artwork that was preserved by Ariana. I can't remember what her last name is. And he is depicted, as soon as I can find him. But anyway, this Goetic Divine, I've actually have put some time with, and I'll get into the personal accounts in a moment, but here is how he's depicted in the Daemon Tarot. As you can see, he is usually depicted as an owl figure. And then when it comes to from the Goetia, the Lesser King of Solomon, written by MacGregor Mathers, it is said following: Stolas, the 36th spirit, he is a great and powerful prince. He appears in the shape of either a mighty raven or a mighty owl at first, before the exorcist, before he taketh on the image of a man. He teaches the art of astronomy and the virtues of herbs and precious stones. He governeth 20 legions of spirits, and there's his seal. But now, here is a bit of a more deeper way that it's spoken of by somebody else. Stolas is a powerful prince who appears first as a raven or an owl, and then as a man. He teaches astronomy and the virtues of herbs and plants, including prophecy through plants, and uses of precious stones. He governs 26 legion of spirits. Now, to really dig into this, hi Kayla, to really dive deeper about Prince Stolas, he first appears as a raven or an owl, and then a man. So in a way, that there shows that he may appear if you invite him to enter your space or go towards him. He may appear in a way that is primarily focused mainly during the nighttime. He may appear much easier in those times of the day, at night or dusk. And he may appear in locations that are much more, let's say, a bit more darker. Like, say, if you're inviting him into your space and you're at home, usually the darker, it may actually be much more inviting to him. And then he appears as a man, showing that he first appears in a way that actually may seem darker and more intelligent and more wise at first, but then he's able to come to a level of understanding for you and meets you at your level. He teaches astronomy, not astrology. Those are different. In terms of astronomy, he can actually teach how planets and why they move in a certain direction, how a planet's say, like the practical reasoning about a planet or anything regarding that's above in space, such as asteroids, comets, or any other planets that are moving in a really odd way, like Eris. I believe it's an asteroid, though. And actually being able to study how they move back and forth around the sun, or they have like a really different orbit, or even like with Uranus, you could even ask Stolas, why the heck is Uranus being the big rebel he is? And then he'll give whatever the answer is. And then he teaches also the virtues of herbs, including prophecy through plants. In other words, the virtues of herbs. So essentially, he can teach the way of using the herbs. Yep. Black holes, that counts. That's in astronomy. That counts. Virtues of herbs, now essentially using virtues. So we're using herbs in a way that's in a medicinal focus by using virtues. However, though, Stolas can teach the way of using herbs in a more spiritual, magical, occult way too. Now, prophecy through plants, that is using divination by plants. And I have done that. And that's actually what I'm going to be recalling. Recently, I've actually got a bouquet of rose lilies and I believe they were pink roses. And essentially, what it was used for was to actually see regarding a situation involving many people. After doing a grid, a crystal grid, I took these two bouquets, put them together, and essentially to see if this crystal grid was working. And that's a form of divination. That bouquet, believe it or not, is still here. The bouquet is right here. I'll show you real quick. If you notice right here, give me a second. Now, if you notice right here, you see how the bouquet is still vibrantly colored? That's yeah, that bouquet. There's no water in it, but it's dried out and it still has all the color to it. That shows the working was successful and that there's still a lot of healthy components left. And that was actually really using plants in a way to divinate to see if a situation has surpassed the parts of torment of a thing. Prince Stolas, yep, I love Prince Stolas too, a lot. Just wait till we get to the part about his Goetia to grow darkness card analysis. But yes, he can teach using plants for divination purposes. Like to see, like if you want to learn how to divinate by tea reading, Stolas can teach you that. And if you're not familiar with tea reading, what it is essentially you brew your tea, except you brew it in a way that has some of the ingredients actually in the tea. And then when you pour the tea in it, you essentially, well, you have a teacup, you cover it, and then you just move it around a little bit. And then as you're moving it around, you have the intention or the question in your mind, repeat it over and over again. And as soon as you're ready, that's when you take your sip, then put the cup down, and then you see on how it's laid out, and you read from there. That's one way. There are some teacups that are actually meant specifically just for tea reading, and they actually have in the cup artwork that actually shows certain symbols. And there's also been some teacups that actually have the astrology symbols in there, and it's actually showing like Aries all the way over to Pisces, and then the house. Yeah, and I mean, really, I like to pretty much, and actually really focus of this whole gems of the Goetia, and I would prefer to call it that way because the way that it's just written out and it's just massively produced with the Goetia, it's not, it's limited. And then people aren't really reading in between the lines and really digging deep. Like, for an example, like I was saying, Stolas can actually teach tea leaf reading, prophecy through plants. hmm I'm not really, and I mean, I'm actually really planning to do all 72, every single one of them, all of them, because, well, why not? They're just as important and as entitled to be given a chance to be really spoken about, just like this for Lilith, Satanas. They all deserve to have the same treatment. And they, yes, as you said, they are still divines, even though some guy is saying like, oh, they're evil. Oh, no. Yep, and like I said, the real focus of this whole entire series is to actually see, just expecting that this Goetic divine can do it. Like for example, like with Gremory last week. With Gremory, on how she was able to, yeah, I'm the same way. I prefer to call them Goetic divines because they were divines before, so aren't they still now? Even though somebody else is calling BS with it and saying BS about them, still have the title. But like with Gremory last week saying procure the love of women, well, to gain the love of women, you have to be able to understand them to perfection, which is difficult. Not saying that it's not possible, it's just that in order to gain the love of a woman, you have to be able to completely understand and how to best caretake, best provide security, and to best understand on how to uplift and provide the best support for them and to encourage them to, you get the idea. Because a lot of people they think procure the love of women. So that means Grimoire can help you gain the love of women. Yep, on the very basic, mundane, boring level. But deeper, Grimoire can teach about women's health, how to better understand the the 9 period month of how it's the birth cycle from like impregnation all the way up to birth. She can help understand that, which is human biology and anatomy. Can actually help with that. Can also help to establish, say, a household and to understand how to caretake for a family and how to provide how to cook, clean, any anything that is of a woman, Gremory can help teach her that. Even also teach how to best understand women and how to best treat them as the example. Yep, that's Gremory. A lot of people don't see that. They just think procure for the love of women, and that's all ages. From from young girl, maiden, mother, and then elderly, crone. From all ages, Rimmer can help understand from all of there. That's one of the examples of how deep this series is going to be. But for returning to Stolas, the virtues of herbs, but pretty much like I said, to use herbs in terms of medicine and how to better use them for higher forms of intellect and knowledge, and to actually put these herbs in a way that's understanding that's going to provide gain, not really not really with the intention of causing like intended like banefulness. That's not really what Stolas would probably most likely go with, but he will teach the spiritual properties, magical properties of it. He'll teach you about them and what they're incorporated for. But for like using it for medicinal reasons, like for an example, if you have, let's say, if you're having, like, if you're not able to sleep that well, if you're anxious and a little bit shaky and having anxiety, he may actually give better suggestions than just like how we think, okay, lavender, see vetiver, any others calming. He can actually probably teach you about how specifically for you personally that he might even suggest use clary sage with jasmine. That might actually be a better calming agent than you thinking just using lavender and lavender's not doing it for you. That might be what he may be able to provide much better than just trying to figure out on your own. He'll actually give you the better medicinal uses of the plant and combine them. And the uses of precious stones. So, precious stones, that includes any kind of gemstone and teaches the virtues and prophecy through gemstones. A good example of that is divination by scrying with a gemstone. This is a rudimented quartz, and I'm trying to find that one spot where it's at. If you notice right there, you can kind of see it have a bit of a golden hue to it, like there, like it's actually known as the hairs of Venus. And he can actually teach you how to divinate by just scrying into this. So what you would do, you just simply look at it, and then you just move it around. And then when you catch a shape of something, and I like how as soon as I'm saying this and I'm just looking right into this, I see kind of like a trying to get the lighting of it just right. Like right, I'm looking right at it, and I can see that there is looks like an. I'm not even kidding. I don't even know if the camera's gonna pick it up, but like I'm looking right at it. There's actually looking like there's a silhouette of an owl, and it has its wings out like that high, and then it looks like it's flying right towards me. Let me see if I can pinpoint it. Ah, right there. Okay. I really don't know if the camera's gonna pick it up, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try really hard. Let's see here. Maybe. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna try it one more time. Oh, okay. So right where my finger's at. Oh, there we go. Right there. You really have to look though. But if you notice, like right here, there's the one part of the ring, and then there's the other part of the ring right there. Bam, right there. One goes down, and then there's another one going up on the other side, and it looks like he's coming right through, just like that. And I mean, that's the reason why, at least with these Goetia divines, this is actually the moment where I just love really looking and really talking about them because subtle things just like that, that's when they come out. That's why I really love talking about it. This stone is a rutilated quartz. It is essentially a stone that has the energy of, say, like a lightning bolt. Pretty much it's used to say, if you want to give a little bit of something, a bit of a, best said, a love tap and a good charge, you pretty much just give it the intention to kind of give everything a nice love tap and wake it up. And then when you put it next to, say, another stone, like behind it or to the side of it, it actually energizes everything. And it's actually, I believe it's no, it's a sacral. No, it's no, that's sacral. Yeah, it's the third chakra, the yellow one. I can't remember for the solar plexus. Oh. And as well, another thing he's actually capable of also doing is actually being able to find out if a stone to find more in potential of the stone. And one of these little gifts, is actually regarding clear quartz. And if you've heard me talk about clear quartz before, about a little hidden gem that I like to, little hidden gem, punny, I know, but taking something like a clear quartz, but this is not really clear quartz. This is a, what is that called? Lemurian, Lemurian seed. I, I can't remember exactly. Lemurian seed quartz, but it's like it's one of those ones. Like I can't remember off the top of my head, but regarding like a clear quartz, one of the things that he actually taught me, which I've been talking about a lot, is you really only need a clear quartz for any kind of magical working. And if you want to get all the other fancy stones, like how I have like so many other fancy ones, at the end of the day, you only need a clear quartz because clear quartz is the stone that can do primarily two things very well. The first one, if you do not program it, if you completely just put another stone, by default, all it's going to do, by default, it's going to just pretty much energize and expand and pretty much empower wherever it's around. It's going to make things become more amplified. Regardless, if you haven't programmed it, forgot about it, by default, it's just going to amplify. Now, the other one, and this is actually the best one, clear quartz can mimic any other stone on this earth exactly the same. I'll say it one more time. Clear quartz can mimic any stone and its properties identically. All you have to do is tell it to do it. Here's an example. say you have, there we go. Say for an example, you have the desire to have, say, you want to have a kunzite energy be put into like a crystal grid or an elixir. But kunzite, sometimes I'm kind of uncomfortable putting kunzite in water, especially like this one, because that's my, yeah, no, that one's not going to go in water. I'm not going to put that in iffy situation. Or if you have a stone that is a little bit not really water happy to go in water, like rhodochrosite, it'll actually get very, ugh. So in cases like this, say you're making a gemstone elixir, well, you want to have the water be infused with rhodochrosite, but you can't put it in water. So you have to do the indirect method, which is you put it around the container or touching the container. But then here comes the little hidden gem. I know. You have the rhodochrosite right here, and now what you're doing, you put it in your receptive hand, grip it, then you take your clear quartz, put it in the other hand. But now say if you don't have a rhodochrosite, you only have the clear quartz. So what you're doing, put it in the hand you do right with, your dominant hand, and then you just tell it what to do. In this case, you can say mentally, this is the way I like to do it. You hold the clear quartz, you say it in your mind, and you just hold it for a bit. Just grip the stone for a short period of time, saying the intention over and over again. Mimic the magical, spiritual properties of rhodochrosite. Mimic it exactly to the point, like exactly as if you were a rhodochrosite. You repeat that over and over again until you deem it fit, and just blow into the stone. So then, right from this point onward, this clear quartz is going to mimic rhodochrosite exactly the same way. Because clear quartz is a stone that if you want to give it an intention, it's going to go, sure, I'll do it. It's not going to say no. It's just be like, yeah, I'll do it. And now this clear quartz, because it's a quartz on the physical mundane level, you can now put this in water. And now with the direct method, this clear quartz goes in the water, and now the elixir is going to be infused with rhodochrosite energy because it's mimicking it to the exact same degree as if it's a rhodochrosite. So now that water is having the energy of rhodochrosite. And best of all, this rhodochrosite is not going to get damaged, and it's not going to be putting potential risk in the elixir. So when you consume it, it's not going to do anything to you except infuse you with that energy. That's like a little sneaky trick with clear quartz. And I have to give credit to Stolas for that one, because he was the one who taught me that. And uses of other precious stones, and also being able to make jewelry craft, jewelry repair, pretty much teaches the uses of precious stones. Well, you're using stones to make jewelry, attire, and also how to, this is another one. He may even also teach you how to do embroidery and stitching, because because you're being taught the uses of precious stones. One of them is stitching them into clothing and also crafting jewelry. You kind of need to have precious stones if you're going to be making jewelry like that. You need to understand metals, and metals technically do count as precious, counts as metals and stones from the earth. Essentially, oh, here's one that just came to my head. It can also teach you how to use the element of earth. Well, precious stones. Well, in order for you to understand how to use earth energy, there's your stones. He teaches you how to use the element of earth, such as using plants, anything that involves minerals, periodic table of elements, or Stolas. Now, the card in Goetia, Throne Darkness. The depiction has Stolas sitting on a skull. It looks like a deer, based on the picture and how I'm looking at it. And this deer figure has cups of water being poured downward, and there's 10 of them. And the zodiac sign on this card is Jupiter in Virgo, which, funny enough, that's actually my Jupiter's placement. So, when you combine Jupiter and Virgo together, you essentially have a guru figure that teaches in a way that is about purification and combating illnesses, decay, and finding the pinpoint exact way on how to use such teachings, using higher forms of learning and higher forms and aspects of a subject to actually combat what is impure, which is, again, the virtues of herbs. And since divination is one of the things that Jupiter teaches, he actually is able to teach with Virgo in a way that's actually using the prophecy through plants and divinating with plants. And for the uses of precious stones, well, in order for you to understand a stone, one of those things you need to know is to know every little nook and cranny about said stone. So Virgo is the one that's able to be fine-tuned, focused, and being able to understand how something works, how it afflicts something, how it cures something, how it's a risk, how it's a benefit, if it causes complications, if it's actually something that's going to heal something or cause more damage, the little fine details, that's Virgo. And specifically, Stolas does the same thing. He's actually able to help you get every little detail about whatever thing, whatever subject or specific you're inquiring about. Like for example, say if you're having a garnet and you want to actually tumble it, but then you actually tumble in a way that it turns into a star garnet, like this one, which when the light hits it just right, you can kind of see like a shimmer effect to it, which is right. I'm trying to get it right there. There it is, right there. Very faint though. There you go. You can barely see it, but like right here. Well, pretty much where this finger's at. You're right there. That's what makes it a star garnet. But now say if you tumble this and the stone starts doing that, but it didn't do it before, Solas can actually teach you how and why it's doing that, like the fine details by like how it specifically tumbled at a certain degree, at a certain temperature, and in a certain way with a certain tool. He'll actually explain how that happened and actually show that doing tumbling of that stone in that certain way changes the properties of it. And by that, as an example, this garnet not only can it do the regular abilities of a regular garnet, it's a star garnet, meaning that it's actually able to act in a way that is eccentric from a regular garnet. In other words, this garnet, for example, can actually be used to be, like, say, to allure spiritual beings. Because usually, with a garnet, you usually think of a stone that's very alluring, very seductive towards a person. But with this, since it's a star garnet, it's being more eccentric and it's being in a way that's a bit more uncommon and more exotic. I think that was the wrong word, but we're going to go with it. So this stone is actually able to attract spirits because of it. And trying to think if there's anything else about Stolas. Oh, if you happen to practice reading like the what's that called? Like when a tree gets cut down when it has the rings in the trunk, those rings, he can actually teach you how to read that. Yeah. If you want to read, like, say, like to see how old a tree is and actually divinate using that, Teaches astronomy and the virtues of herbs, including prophecy through plants. Well, a tree is a plant. A tree gets cut down, divinate by reading the rings of a tree on the inside. That is a form of divination. Stolas can teach you that. That is a hidden gem. Not many people would think prophecy through plants. How is that possible? Look at the rings of a tree and on the stump. That's divination. And reading a tree. That's prophecy and communicating with a tree and actually seeing something that is beyond the everyday senses. But also divinating by having a bouquet of flowers to see if a working is being successful or not. In this case, with the one that I showed as the example, it was too successful because the bouquet still has vibrant colors to it and it's dried out. There you go. And I believe that's everything that I can think of with Prince Stolas. So if there's anything, not just that, I'm sorry. That thing doesn't know how to charge, so I'm like, with it. But anyway, completely ignore that. If there's anything you would like to add that I didn't cover without Stolas that you have seen when you work with them, just plop it in the comments, or if you're not in the replay, plop a little live message and share it around. And I'll keep this up. I mean, like, I'll stay live for like another 5 minutes or so, and then I'll probably have to sign off because I have another thing I have to be doing. But yes, yep, it's the book. Adding some more fine little touches to it. Oh, just remembered another thing about Stolas. Sheesh, just keeps coming. Stolas can actually also teach you whenever you're going to do a tea leaf reading, which herbs are going to best support you when you divinate about a certain subject. For an example, if you're divinating about a love situation, he may actually suggest for you to put in the tea chamomile, sage, rose hips, rose water, or maybe even just a slight little bit of either cinnamon bark or some little spice because it is seen as a love related plant. So that's possibly one suggestion. So he might actually give you a better herbal combination. Say if we're going to make an herbal tea for divination and do tea leaf reading, and actually be able to help you get a more focused, on point, inline herbal blend to make the tea with. So that way everything just flows together. And that's another one. And you can see like how deep these Goetic divines, how much potential they have, and they're not being really learned from and being asked for assistance in the more potential that they have. They're only being read with face value, but when you really dig into it, you can realize so many things about them that they can do. And I believe next on the next one, I think actually here we'll pull one for our next one, and we can see where our next one will be for next time. Just make a note of the name. Okay, let's see. I'm going to take that out because that's just the Ace of Wands. Not really going to have the aces in there. I really just have only the 72 in there. So that way, okay, I know that. Okay, there's that one, and there's that one. Okay, so let's see who comes up next for next week. Because, yeah. Oh, well. Okay, looks like we're going to be going into. Even though this one might be probably the one that is going to be the one that's going to be the most um, The one that's going to kind of tear away at the stereotype and how he's commonly looked at, because usually when you speak his name, that just his name alone makes people get a little bit intimidated, a little bit uncomfortable. But I have no problem with him. Our next one was going to be Marquise Andres, because he fell out of the deck. I mean, oh, and he's also in this deck. His planetary association is Moon in Aquarius. Who has a Moon in Aquarius? Planned, and he's the Knight of Wands. So next week, our next hidden gem in the Goetia will be about Marquise Andres, and we're going to try and dispel this collective stereotype of him being very pushy, very aggressive, and kind of overly dangerous. We're going to kind of clean that up a little and just bring a little bit more of an understanding with him. So, this was about Prince Stolas. Next week will be about Marquise Andres. And then I'll just see you all on the next one.